A 5-year-old girl just asked me to be her mother for one day. Claire Monroe stared at the child standing in front of her, snow melting in her blonde curls, while a man in $1,000 coat stood frozen behind her. This wasn't some heartwarming movie scene. This was a desperate kid and her emotionally bankrupt father interrupting the one quiet hour Claire had left before her second shift started. She should have said no, should have walked away. But something in that little girl's eyes looked exactly like what Claire saw in the mirror every morning. Someone drowning in loneliness, reaching for anything that might feel like home. If you want to see how a chance encounter in a frozen park changed 3 broken lives forever, stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The thing about Chicago winters nobody tells you is how the cold gets inside you. Not just your skin, deeper than that. Into your bones, your chest, the hollow space where hope used to live before the city ground it down to nothing. Claire Monroe knew that cold better than anyone. She sat on a park bench that somebody should have condemned years ago, the wood so frozen it burned through her worn jeans. Her coffee had gone lukewarm 20 minutes ago, but she kept both hands wrapped around the paper cup anyway. Not for warmth, though she needed that too, but because holding something made her feel slightly less invisible. 30 years old, 2 jobs, no friends, no family worth mentioning, an efficiency apartment in Pilsen with heat that worked 3 days out of 7. This was her life, and most days she was too tired to even hate it properly. The park was nearly empty. Smart people stayed inside when the temperature dropped below 20 degrees, but Claire had 43 minutes between her morning shift at the coffee shop and her afternoon shift at the grocery store, and her apartment felt more suffocating than the cold. So she sat, watched her breath fog the air, tried not to think about how this was probably the closest thing she'd have to a lunch break. That's when she noticed them. The man first. Hard not to. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine ad for watches that cost more than Claire made in a year. Charcoal wool coat that actually fit properly. Leather shoes that had never seen a puddle of dirty slush. Dark hair starting to gray at the temples, which somehow made him look more expensive instead of older. He was on his phone. Of course he was. 3rd call since Claire had noticed him, his voice sharp even from a distance. I don't care if Henderson's uncomfortable with the timeline, Marcus. We're not pushing the launch. He has 48 hours to get his team in line, or I'm replacing him. The little girl beside him looked about 5. Pink coat, blonde curls escaping from under a knit hat, mittens dangling from strings sewn into her sleeves. She'd been trying to build something in the snow, a snowman maybe, or a fort, but she'd given up. Now she just stood there, watching her father with an expression Claire recognized immediately. The look of a kid who'd learned that adults were always busy, always somewhere else, even when they were standing right there. Claire looked away. Not her business, not her life. She checked her phone. 37 minutes until she needed to be at the store. Lydia would give her hell if she was late again. Last time it happened, she'd gotten a 10-minute lecture about responsibility while stocking canned vegetables with hands so cold she could barely grip the cans. Excuse me? Claire's head snapped up. Ed. The little girl stood directly in front of her now, close enough that Claire could see her eyes were hazel, more gold than green. Her cheeks were pink from the cold, her nose running a little. Hi, the girl said. Claire glanced toward the man. Still on his phone, still talking, hadn't even noticed his daughter had wandered off. Hey, Claire said, unsure. Was she supposed to call him over, send the kid back? You okay? Are you lonely? The question hit like a slap. Claire opened her mouth, closed it. The girl just watched her with that direct, unflinching stare kids had before the world taught them to pretend. That's, Claire started, then stopped. Because what was she going to say? No? The truth was written all over her, probably. In her bargain store coat and her tired eyes and the fact that she was spending her break alone in a frozen park. Kind of a personal question, kiddo. My daddy says I shouldn't ask personal questions to strangers, the girl said matter-of-factly. But you look sad. Like me. Something in Claire's chest cracked. Emma! The man had finally noticed. He was striding toward them now, phone still pressed to his ear, his face tight with the particular stress of a parent who'd lost track of their child for 30 seconds. I have to go, Marcus. Handle it. He ended the call, slipping the phone into his coat pocket. When he reached them, he put a hand on his daughter's shoulder, protective, automatic, His eyes met Claire's for half a second before moving away. I'm sorry, she's not usually… Emma, you can't just walk up to people. She was sitting all alone, Emma said, as if this explained everything. I wanted to make sure she was okay. That's… The man seemed to struggle for words. That's very kind, sweetheart, but this lady probably wants to be left alone. Actually, I asked her a question first, Emma said. She turned back to Claire with alarming intensity. Are you lonely? You can tell me. I won't be mad. Claire looked at this kid, this tiny, persistent kid with snow in her hair, and felt something shift. Yeah, she said quietly. I am. She hadn't meant to say it. Definitely hadn't meant for it to sound like that, like she was confessing to a crime. Emma nodded slowly, as if Claire had just confirmed a diagnosis. Then she said the strangest thing. Do you want to be my mom? Just for one day? The silence that followed was so complete Claire could hear the traffic on Ashland Avenue 2 blocks over. The man stared at his daughter. Emma, what? Just for one day, Emma repeated, looking at Claire now. We could have hot chocolate and maybe go to the museum. Daddy's always too busy, but I bet you're not. Are you? Claire's brain had stopped working. She was aware she should say something, laugh it off, make an excuse, literally anything, but the words wouldn't come. Because the truth was, she wasn't busy. She had tonight off, a rare scheduling accident that meant she'd be spending the evening alone in her apartment, eating ramen and watching her neighbor's TV through the thin walls. And this kid, this random, heartbreaking kid, wanted to spend time with her. I don't think that's a good idea, the man said. His voice had changed, gotten quieter. When Claire looked at him, really looked, she saw he wasn't angry. He was uncomfortable, maybe embarrassed. Emma, apologize to this woman and we'll… I don't need her to apologize, Claire heard herself say. The man's eyes snapped to hers. Up close, she could see they were dark brown, almost black. Could see the shadows under them, the lines around his mouth that came from stress, not age. She didn't do anything wrong, Claire continued. She asked a question, that's all. A completely inappropriate question, the man said, but there was no heat in it. Maybe. Claire looked at Emma again. The kid was watching her with desperate hope, the kind that hurt to see. But she's not wrong. I am lonely. And I'm guessing… She paused, chose her words carefully. I'm guessing she wouldn't ask something like that unless she was lonely too. The man's jaw tightened. Direct hit. Emma tugged on his coat. Please, Daddy? Just one day. I promise I'll be good. I won't ask for anything else, please? He looked down at his daughter, and Claire saw something crack in his expression. Pain, maybe, or guilt. Probably both. Sweetheart, you can't just… This isn't how… He ran a hand through his hair, and for a second the polished exterior slipped. He just looked tired. We don't know this person. She doesn't know us. You can't ask someone to… My name's Claire, Claire said. She didn't know why she was doing this, didn't know why she wasn't walking away. Claire Monroe. I work at Java House on North Avenue and the Jewel over on Clybourne. I've lived in Chicago for 8 years. I'm not… She stopped, laughed a little. I'm not a threat. Or crazy. Just broken lonely, apparently. The man studied her for a long moment. She could see him calculating, weighing risks, wondering if she was some kind of scammer, probably. Or worse. Ethan Calloway, he said finally. Claire's stomach dropped, because she recognized that name. Everyone in Chicago did. CEO of some tech company that had made him a billionaire before he turned 30. She'd seen his face on the business section of newspapers left behind at the coffee shop. This was a mistake. This was definitely a mistake. She started to stand. Wait, Ethan said. Claire froze. Emma's been… He glanced at his daughter, seemed to choose his words carefully. It's been hard for her, the last few years. Her mother passed away when she was 2. Oh, that explained… I work too much, Ethan continued, and there was something raw in his voice now. I know I do. I keep trying to cut back, but there's always something, always a crisis. And Emma's… she's so patient. Too patient. She shouldn't have to be. Daddy? Emma said quietly. I'm not saying yes, Ethan said quickly. I can't just let my daughter spend a day with someone I met in a park. That's insane, but he looked at Claire again. Would you be willing to meet somewhere public? Somewhere Emma and I go regularly, just for an hour or two. Let her get to know you a little. See if... He shook his head. I can't believe I'm even considering this. Neither could Claire. The museum, Emma said immediately. The Field Museum. We go every month. We could go on Saturday. Emma, please, Daddy, just to see, just to try. Ethan looked at Claire. Claire looked at Emma. None of this made sense. This was Chicago. You didn't trust strangers. You definitely didn't let your kids spend time with someone you met on a park bench. But Claire was thinking about that expression on Emma's face, that loneliness. And she was thinking about her own apartment, her own life, the way the hours stretched out empty and identical, day after day after day. Saturday, she said. 2:00, I can do that. Ethan exhaled slowly. This is a terrible idea. Probably, Claire agreed. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, I'm pulling the plug immediately. Fair enough. Emma was practically vibrating with excitement now. Really? Really, really? Really? Claire said, and despite everything, she smiled. But just the museum, okay? Just to see if we even like each other. We will, Emma said with absolute certainty. I already know. Ethan pulled out his phone, typed quickly. I need your number, in case something comes up. Claire rattled it off, watched him save it. This was insane. She was giving her number to a billionaire so she could possibly spend a day with his daughter. I'll text you the details, Ethan said. He put his hand on Emma's shoulder again. Come on, sweetheart. We need to go. Thank you, Emma said to Claire, solemn as a judge. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, Claire said. We haven't even... But Emma had already thrown her arms around Claire's waist, hugging her tight. The gesture was so sudden, so unexpected, that Claire froze. She couldn't remember the last time someone had hugged her. When Emma pulled back, she was grinning. Saturday, she said. Don't forget. I won't. Claire watched them walk away. Ethan with his phone already out again, Emma skipping beside him, looking back every few steps to wave. When they were gone, Claire sat back down on the frozen bench. What the hell had she just agreed to? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Field Museum. Saturday, 2 p.m. Main entrance. Ethan Calloway. Claire stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. I'll be there. She had 20 minutes until her shift started. Just enough time to walk to the store and clock in. Just enough time to convince herself this was real and not some weird hypothermia-induced hallucination. A 5-year-old had asked her to be her mother for a day, and she'd said yes. Saturday came too fast and not fast enough. Claire changed outfits 4 times before settling on jeans and a sweater that didn't have any visible stains. She'd spent $20 she didn't have on a haircut, then immediately regretted it. What was she doing? This wasn't a date. She didn't even know what this was. The Field Museum loomed ahead, massive and familiar. Claire had been here exactly twice in 8 years, both times when she'd first moved to Chicago and still thought she'd have time for tourist stuff. She spotted them immediately. Ethan stood near the main entrance, Emma's hand in his, both of them watching the crowd. When Emma saw Claire, her whole face lit up. You came! Of course I came, Claire said, walking over. I said I would. Ethan nodded at her. He looked less hostile than he had in the park, but not exactly friendly either. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, well, Claire glanced around. I've never stood anyone up. Wasn't going to start with a 5-year-old. Emma was already tugging on Claire's hand. Can we see the dinosaurs first? Please? They have a new T-Rex and Daddy says it's really cool, but he always has to take phone calls and we never get to stay long enough. Claire looked at Ethan. He had the grace to look sheepish. Work calls, he said. I'm trying to limit them today. Uh-huh, Claire said. She crouched down to Emma's level. Here's the deal. Today's about you, okay? We go where you want to go. We stay as long as you want to stay. No rush. Emma's eyes went wide. Really? Really? What if I want to see everything? Claire checked her watch. 2:00. The museum closed at 5. Then we see as much as we can in 3 hours, and maybe we come back another time for the rest. Sound good? Emma looked at her father. Can we come back? Ethan hesitated for just a second too long. Claire saw Emma's face start to fall, saw the kid already bracing for disappointment. If Claire's willing, Ethan said finally, then yes, we can come back. Emma squealed and grabbed Claire's hand properly this time. Come on! The dinosaurs are this way! They moved through the museum at Emma's pace, which meant stopping every 10 feet when something caught her attention. The kid had questions about everything. Why were dinosaur bones black? How did they know what color the dinosaurs were? Did Claire think velociraptors could really open doors like in the movies? Claire answered what she could, made up plausible-sounding answers for the rest. Ethan trailed behind them, phone in hand but not actively using it, watching. After 40 minutes in the dinosaur hall, Emma announced she was thirsty. There's a cafe on the second floor, Ethan said. They took the stairs. Emma held both their hands, swinging between them, chattering about the brachiosaurus they'd just seen. Claire caught Ethan watching the two of them with an expression she couldn't quite read. The cafe was crowded. They found a table near the window, and Ethan went to get drinks while Claire and Emma claimed the seats. Do you have kids? Emma asked once they were alone. No, Claire said. Just me. Do you want kids? Claire blinked. I don't. That's kind of a big question. My teacher says I ask too many big questions, Emma said seriously. But I don't understand why. If you want to know something, you should just ask. That's fair, Claire admitted. She thought about it. I guess I never really thought about it. Kids, I mean. I'm pretty busy just taking care of myself. What do you do? For work? I work at a coffee shop in the mornings and a grocery store in the afternoons. Emma frowned. That's 2 jobs. Yeah. My daddy only has 1 job and he's always tired. You must be really tired. Claire laughed. She couldn't help it. You're not wrong, kid. Emma? The girl said. You can call me Emma. We're friends now. Something warm bloomed in Claire's chest. Okay, Emma. Ethan returned with hot chocolate for Emma, coffee for himself, and tea for Claire. He'd remembered how she'd been drinking it in the park. Thanks, Claire said, surprised. No problem. He sat down, immediately checked his phone. Emma kicked his shin under the table, gently but definitely on purpose. What was that for? Ethan asked. You're on your phone again. I'm just checking. Daddy, you promised. Ethan looked at his daughter, then at his phone, then back at his daughter. Claire watched something play out across his face. Guilt, frustration, resignation. He put the phone face down on the table. You're right, he said quietly. I'm sorry. Emma beamed at him, then at Claire. See? He can do it. He just forgets sometimes. They drank their drinks. Emma talked nonstop about school, her teacher, a boy named Marcus who ate glue, and her favorite book about a mouse who wanted to be a princess. Ethan listened but didn't contribute much. Claire got the sense he was still evaluating her, waiting for her to do something wrong. When Emma excused herself to go to the bathroom, Ethan leaned forward. I need to ask you something. Claire set down her tea. Okay. Why did you say yes? To this? Claire gestured vaguely. I don't know. Emma asked. She struggled for the right word. Lonely, like she really needed this. That's not an answer, Ethan said. Lots of kids are lonely. That doesn't mean strangers agree to spend time with them. Claire met his eyes. You want the truth? Please. I said yes because I'm lonely too, Claire said simply. Because I spend every day working jobs I hate, going home to an empty apartment, and trying not to think about how this is probably all my life's ever going to be. And then your daughter asked me one question, and for the first time in years, someone actually noticed I existed. She paused. So yeah, maybe it's selfish. Maybe I'm getting more out of this than she is. But I said yes because someone wanted me around, and I couldn't remember the last time that happened. But Ethan stared at her. She couldn't tell if he was horrified or impressed or what. That's the saddest thing I've heard in a long time, he said finally. Yeah, well, join the club. I mean it. Nobody should. He stopped, shook his head. You really don't have anyone? Not really. No. Claire picked at the edge of her paper cup. My mom died when I was 17. I've got a brother in Arizona I haven't talked to in 5 years. No boyfriend, no close friends. Just work and Netflix and trying to make rent every month. Jesus. It's fine, Claire said automatically. I'm used to it. That doesn't make it fine. Before Claire could respond, Emma came bounding back. Can we see the ancient Egypt exhibit now? Please? They spent the next 2 hours wandering through mummies and hieroglyphics and ancient jewelry. Emma's enthusiasm was infectious. Even Ethan seemed to relax a little, pointing out details Claire would have missed, reading plaques aloud when Emma asked. At one point, Emma took both their hands again, and this time Ethan didn't pull away. By the time the museum announced it would be closing in 15 minutes, Emma was dragging. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving behind a tired 5-year-old who'd walked too much and talked too much, and was now leaning heavily against Claire's side. We should get you home, Ethan said gently. Can Claire come with us? Emma asked, not quite whining, but close. I don't think... Just for a little bit, Emma pressed. Please, we could watch a movie or play a game. Please? Ethan looked at Claire, clearly uncomfortable. You don't have to... It's okay, Claire said. And it was. She didn't have anywhere to be. No one waiting. If you're comfortable with it, I'm free. She could see him wavering, could see the part of him that wanted to say no, the careful, protective part that didn't let strangers into his home. But then Emma yawned, and something in Ethan's expression softened. 1 hour, he said. Then Claire needs to get home. Yay! Emma grabbed Claire's hand. You're going to love our house. It's really big. Like really, really big. She wasn't kidding. The car ride alone was surreal. A Tesla that drove itself while Ethan sat in the driver's seat anyway, just in case. Emma fell asleep almost immediately in her car seat, her head lolling to one side. They lived in Lincoln Park. Of course they did. The house was a mansion, pristine and modern and probably worth more than Claire would make in 10 lifetimes. 3 stories of glass and stone, with a circular driveway and security cameras covering every angle. Claire felt wildly out of place before she even got out of the car. It's too much, I know, Ethan said quietly, noticing her expression. I bought it right after my wife died. Thought a new space would help. It didn't. He carried Emma inside. The interior was exactly what Claire expected. Hardwood floors, modern furniture that probably cost more than her car, art on the walls that looked important. But it was also strangely empty. Not of furniture, but of life. No toys scattered around, no dishes in the sink, no jackets thrown over chairs. It looked like a showroom. Ethan settled Emma on a couch that was probably Italian leather. The kid stirred but didn't wake up. She'll be out for at least 20 minutes, he said. Coffee? Sure. The kitchen was massive. Claire perched on a bar stool while Ethan made coffee in a machine that looked more complicated than her car's dashboard. So, she said, because the silence was getting uncomfortable. Tech CEO, huh? You looked me up. Your name's pretty distinctive. It came up when I Googled the museum. A lie, but a small one. She'd absolutely Googled him after that first meeting. What else did you find? Ethan asked, not looking at her. That you're worth about $3 billion. That your company makes software for hospitals. That your wife died in a car accident 3 years ago. Claire paused. I'm sorry. About your wife. Thank you. He handed her a cup of coffee. Cream and sugar are... Black's fine. He raised an eyebrow. Really? Can't afford to be picky. Ethan winced. Right. Sorry. That was... It's fine, Claire said, even though it kind of wasn't. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug. This is a really nice house. It's empty, Ethan said bluntly. That's what it is. I work 80-hour weeks. Emma has a nanny who picks her up from school and makes her dinner and puts her to bed most nights. I see my daughter maybe 2 hours a day if I'm lucky. This place is just... He gestured vaguely. Expensive wallpaper. Claire didn't know what to say to that. Emma loved today, Ethan continued. He leaned against the counter, coffee cup in both hands. I haven't seen her that happy in months, maybe years. She's a great kid. She is, and she deserves better than what I'm giving her. You're trying, Claire said. That's more than some people do. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, trying isn't worth much if nothing changes. Before Claire could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Are you guys talking about me? Always, Ethan said, his whole demeanor shifting. "Come here, sweetheart. Do you still want to hang out with Claire, or are you too tired?" "Not tired," Emma lied through a yawn. They ended up in what Ethan called the media room, a converted bedroom with a TV the size of Claire's entire apartment wall. Emma picked a movie Claire had never heard of, something animated with talking animals. The kid lasted maybe 15 minutes before falling asleep again, this time with her head in Claire's lap. "She really likes you," Ethan said quietly. They were sitting on opposite ends of the massive sectional couch, Emma stretched out between them. "I really like her too." "What you said earlier at the museum about being lonely." Ethan stared at the TV, not at Claire. "I get it, the lonely part." "Yeah? I've got 500 employees, a full executive team, board members, investors, people who need things from me every single day. My phone never stops ringing. My email never empties." He paused. "And I don't have a single person I can call a friend. Not really. Everyone wants something. Everyone's performing. And meanwhile, my daughter is—" His voice cracked slightly. "She's growing up with a father who's there but not there, you know? Physically present but mentally somewhere else. Always somewhere else." Claire looked down at Emma, fast asleep, her small hand curled around the edge of Claire's sweater. "You showed up today," Claire said. "You could have been on your phone the whole time, but you weren't. You listened to her, laughed with her. That counts for something." "Does it?" "I think so." They sat in silence for a while, the movie playing forgotten in the background. Emma's breathing was deep and even. Claire found herself running her fingers through the kid's hair without thinking about it, the way her own mother used to do when Claire was small. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said eventually. "Sure." If Emma asked if she wanted to do this again, would you? Claire's hand stilled. "Do you want me to?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "This whole thing is insane. I barely know you. Letting you into Emma's life, into my life, it's reckless. It's the opposite of everything I should be doing." But I haven't seen my daughter this happy in 3 years, Ethan said, and there was something desperate in his voice now. "And I haven't felt this, I don't know, present in just as long. Like maybe I'm not completely failing at everything." Claire thought about her empty apartment, her predictable, lonely life, the way she'd felt today, needed and wanted and part of something. "Yeah," she said quietly. "If Emma asked, I'd say yes." Ethan met her eyes across the couch. In the flickering light from the TV, he looked younger, more vulnerable. "Okay," he said. "Okay." Emma stirred, mumbling something unintelligible before settling again. And Claire, who'd woken up that morning with no plans beyond laundry and grocery shopping, realized her life had just shifted in a direction she couldn't have predicted. A billionaire and his daughter had invited her into their broken, expensive, lonely world. And somehow, impossibly, it felt like she might actually belong there. The text came on Tuesday afternoon while Claire was restocking shelves at the grocery store. "Emma wants to know if you're free this Saturday." Ethan. Claire stared at her phone, a can of green beans forgotten in her hand. She'd spent the last 3 days trying to convince herself that Saturday at the museum had been a one-time thing, a strange, beautiful anomaly that wouldn't repeat itself. Her thumbs hovered over the keyboard. She should probably say no. Should probably let these people go back to their expensive, complicated life while she went back to hers. "What time?" she typed instead. The response came almost immediately. "Emma says morning. She wants to take you to her favorite bakery for hot chocolate and then show you everything." Her words, not mine. Despite herself, Claire smiled. "Okay. Where should I meet you? I'll pick you up. Send me your address." Claire looked around the break room with its flickering fluorescent lights and motivational posters about teamwork. Looked at her phone. Thought about Ethan Calloway pulling up to her building in Pilsen, seeing the broken security door and the graffiti on the bus stop out front. "I can meet you somewhere," she texted back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. It appeared again. "Claire, just send me the address." So she did. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. Claire changed clothes 4 times again, finally settling on jeans and a sweater that was presentable without trying too hard. She was waiting outside her building when the Tesla pulled up, because there was no way she was letting Ethan see the inside of her apartment with its sagging couch and the bathroom door that didn't close all the way. Emma's face appeared in the back window, pressed against the glass, grinning. Claire slid into the passenger seat. The interior smelled like leather and something else, something expensive she couldn't identify. Ethan was in a navy sweater and jeans, which somehow made him look more intimidating than the business clothes had. Less CEO, more actual human being she was supposed to interact with. "Morning," he said. "Morning." "Claire!" Emma was bouncing in her car seat. "Guess what? We're going to Vanilla Patisserie, and they have the best hot chocolate in the whole world. And also, I want you to see my school and the park where I play, and maybe the library. And, breathe," Ethan said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "We've got all day." "All day?" Claire looked at him. He shrugged, not quite meeting her eyes. "I blocked off my calendar. Figured if we're doing this, we should actually do it." Something in Claire's chest went warm. They drove north through neighborhoods that got progressively nicer until Claire stopped recognizing street names. Emma provided running commentary on everything they passed. That's where her friend Lucy lived. That's the park with the good swings. That's the coffee shop that gave her a free cookie once. The bakery was in Lakeview, small and French and completely charming. The kind of place Claire had walked past 100 times without ever going inside because a single croissant probably cost more than her lunch budget for the week. Inside smelled like butter and sugar and coffee. Emma dragged Claire straight to the display case, pointing out every pastry while explaining in detail which ones were her favorites and why. "The pain au chocolat is good, but the almond croissant is better except on Wednesdays when they make the apple tarts," Emma said seriously. "That's very important to know." "I'll remember that," Claire said, trying not to laugh. Ethan ordered hot chocolate for Emma, coffee for himself, and looked at Claire expectantly. "Same," she said. "Coffee. You want anything to eat?" Claire glanced at the menu board with its $12 pastries. "I'm good." Ethan gave her a look she couldn't quite read, then turned back to the barista. 3 almond croissants and a pain au chocolat." "Thanks." They found a table by the window. Emma immediately started talking about her week at school, a science project involving volcanoes, a spelling test she'd aced, ongoing drama with a girl named Sophie who kept stealing people's erasers. Claire listened, asked questions, laughed in the right places. Ethan mostly stayed quiet, but she caught him watching them with that same unreadable expression from before. When their order arrived, Emma pushed one of the almond croissants toward Claire. "You have to try it. You have to." "Emma, Claire said she didn't—" "It's okay," Claire said, breaking off a piece. The pastry was perfect, flaky and buttery and still warm. She'd forgotten food could taste like this. "Oh, wow, right?" Emma grinned. "I told you." They ate slowly. Emma got chocolate on her face and didn't care. Ethan checked his phone twice, caught himself both times, and put it away with visible effort. Claire tried to remember the last time she'd sat in a cafe like this. Not rushing, not counting dollars, just existing in a moment. She couldn't. After the bakery, Emma insisted on showing Claire her school. A private academy with actual ivy on the walls and a playground that looked like it had been designed by architects. Then the library, where Emma had strong opinions about the children's section layout. Then the park, where Emma wanted to swing and needed someone to push her. Ethan stood back, hands in his pockets, while Claire pushed Emma higher and higher, the kids' laughter cutting through the cold morning air. "Daddy, come swing too," Emma called. "I'm good, sweetheart." "Please? You never swing anymore." Ethan hesitated, then walked over to the swing next to Emma's. He sat down carefully, like he wasn't sure the chains would hold him. "Push me, Claire," Emma demanded. So Claire pushed them both, alternating until her arms ached and she was laughing as hard as Emma was. When she finally stopped, breathless, Ethan was actually smiling. Not the polite smile he used for business, a real one. "When's the last time you did that?" Claire asked him. "Honestly, I don't remember." Emma dragged them all over the park after that. The slide, the monkey bars, the weird spinning thing that made Claire nauseous just watching. Ethan's phone rang 3 times. He sent every call to voicemail. By noon, Emma was hungry again. They ended up at a diner that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1985, all cracked vinyl booths and laminated menus. Emma ordered pancakes with chocolate chips. Ethan got a burger. Claire asked for a grilled cheese, then immediately wondered if that made her look childish. "So," Ethan said once the waitress had left, "Emma's been asking me something all week." Emma suddenly became very interested in the sugar packets. "What's that?" Claire asked. "She wants to know if you could come over one day after school," Ethan said. "Just to hang out. Maybe help with homework, play some games." He paused. "I told her I'd ask you, but that you'd probably say no because you have work." Claire looked at Emma, who was peeking up through her eyelashes, hopeful and trying not to be. "What days?" Claire asked. Emma's head snapped up. "Any day. All days. Whenever you want." "I work mornings and afternoons most days," Claire said slowly. "But I have Thursdays off, usually." "Thursday works," Ethan said quickly. "I try to leave the office by 5 on Thursdays. We could, I don't know, order dinner, something low-key." "You want me to just hang out at your house?" Claire said. "For no reason." "The reason is Emma wants you there," Ethan said. "That's enough reason." Their food arrived. Emma drowned her pancakes in syrup while explaining her weekly schedule in exhaustive detail. Math on Mondays, reading on Tuesdays, art on Wednesdays, which was her favorite. "Do you like art?" Emma asked Claire. "I don't know much about it," Claire admitted. "That's okay. I can teach you." Emma said this with complete seriousness. "I'm very good at art. My teacher says I have a natural talent." "Then I'm lucky you're willing to share that talent with me." Emma beamed. After lunch, they walked along the lake. The wind off the water was brutal, but Emma wanted to see the boats, so they went. Ethan stayed close to his daughter, one hand on her shoulder when they got near the edge. Claire hung back slightly, watching them. Father and daughter. Billionaire and heir. A family that had invited her in for reasons she still didn't quite understand. "Claire, come look." Emma waved her over. "You can see all the way to Indiana." "That's Michigan, sweetheart," Ethan said. "Michigan? Indiana? Same thing." "Not even a little bit the same thing." Claire joined them at the railing. The lake stretched out gray and endless, Chicago's skyline behind them, the cold seeping through every layer of clothing. Emma wedged herself between Claire and Ethan, taking both their hands. "This is my favorite place," Emma announced. "Well, one of my favorite places." "I have a lot of favorite places." "Good to have options," Claire said. They stood there for a while, Emma chattering, Ethan occasionally correcting her geography, Claire trying to remember the last time she'd felt this comfortable with people she barely knew. On the drive back, Emma fell asleep within minutes, exhausted from the day. The silence in the car felt different this time, less awkward, almost comfortable. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly. "For today, for all of this." "I didn't do anything." "You showed up. That's more than most people do." Claire looked out the window at the neighborhood sliding past. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why me? You could hire someone to spend time with Emma, someone with actual childcare experience and references and background checks. Instead, you're trusting a stranger you met in a park." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Because Emma asked for you specifically, because when she looks at you, she lights up in a way she hasn't since her mother died. And because..." He paused. "Because you're not performing. Everyone I meet wants something from me. Money, connections, opportunities. But you're just here, and that's..." He shook his head. "I don't know. It matters. I'm here because I'm lonely, and your kid is the first person who's been nice to me in months," Claire said. "That's not noble. That's pathetic." "It's honest," Ethan said. "I'll take honest over noble any day." Thursday came. Claire showed up at the Calloway house at 3:30, as planned. A woman in her 50s answered the door. The nanny, presumably. She looked Claire up and down with obvious suspicion. "You must be Claire," the woman said, not warmly. "That's me. Emma's in the playroom, up the stairs, second door on the right." The nanny grabbed her coat. "Mr. Calloway said you'd be here until he gets home." "That's the plan." The nanny left without another word, and Claire was alone in a mansion worth more than she'd earned in several lifetimes. She found Emma exactly where promised, surrounded by toys but playing with none of them. When she saw Claire, she jumped up. "You came!" "I said I would." "I know, but sometimes people say things and then don't do them." Emma grabbed Claire's hand. "Come on. I have to show you my room and my art supplies and my book collection and..." The tour took 20 minutes. Emma's bedroom was bigger than Claire's entire apartment, with a canopy bed and more stuffed animals than seemed reasonable. The adjoining bathroom had a tub with jets. The closet was organized by color. "This is where I keep my special things," Emma said, opening a drawer in her desk. Inside were rocks, feathers, a dried flower, ticket stubs, birthday cards. "And this is my favorite rock. I found it at the beach. And this feather is from a cardinal. And this flower is from my mommy's garden. But we don't have a garden anymore because Daddy says he doesn't have time to take care of it." Claire picked up the dried flower carefully. It was brittle, faded to brown. "Do you remember your mom?" "A little bit," Emma said. "I remember she smelled good, and she sang to me, but I don't remember her face very much anymore. We have pictures, but it's not the same." "No," Claire said quietly. "It's not." They went back downstairs. Emma wanted to show Claire how to make friendship bracelets, a new skill she'd learned at school. They sat at the kitchen island, Emma patiently explaining the pattern while Claire fumbled with the embroidery thread. "You're not very good at this," Emma observed. "No, I'm really not." "That's okay. Practice makes perfect. That's what my teacher says." They worked in companionable silence for a while. Emma finished 2 bracelets in the time it took Claire to complete half of one. The kid tied one around her own wrist and handed the other to Claire. "This one's for you," Emma said, "so you don't forget about me." Claire's throat went tight. "I couldn't forget about you if I tried." "Promise?" "Promise." Emma seemed satisfied with this. She started on a 3rd bracelet, her small fingers moving with surprising dexterity. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said after a while. "Sure." "Why don't you have a boyfriend?" Claire nearly dropped her bracelet. Wow. Okay. Where did that come from?" "My friend Lucy's mom is always talking about her boyfriend, and Sophie's mom just got married again, so I thought maybe you had a boyfriend too." "No boyfriend," Claire said. "Just me." "Why not?" "I don't know. I work a lot. I don't really meet people, and I guess I just haven't found anyone who—" She stopped. How did you explain adult loneliness to a 5-year-old? "It's complicated. Do you want a boyfriend?" "I haven't really thought about it." "My daddy doesn't have a girlfriend," Emma said, very matter-of-fact. "He works too much too. Mrs. Peterson says he needs to make time for his personal life, but he says his personal life is me." "Mrs. Peterson is the nanny?" "Yeah, she's nice, but she's not very fun. She makes me eat vegetables." Claire laughed. "Vegetables are good for you." "That's what she says, but they taste bad." They were still making bracelets when Ethan got home, earlier than promised. He came through the door with his tie loosened and his hair slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. "Daddy!" Emma ran to him. "Look, Claire and I made friendship bracelets." Ethan examined the bracelet on Emma's wrist with appropriate seriousness. "This is very nice. Did you make one for Claire too?" "Duh, and she's making one, but it's taking forever because she's not very good at it yet." "Emma," Claire said, "you can't just tell people they're bad at things." "Why not? It's true. You said so yourself." Ethan caught Claire's eye, looking like he was trying not to smile. "She's got you there." "Thanks for the support," Claire said dryly. Ethan loosened his tie the rest of the way. "Have you two eaten?" "We were waiting for you," Emma said. "Can we order pizza, please, with pepperoni?" "We had pizza last week." "So, pizza is good every week." "She's not wrong," Claire offered. Ethan looked at both of them, sighed. "Fine. Pizza. But you're getting salad too." "Claire, did you hear that? Vegetables." Emma said this like it was a personal betrayal. They ate in the kitchen, pizza straight from the box. Emma's salad largely ignored. Ethan asked about Claire's day. She told him about the bracelet making, the tour of Emma's room, the extensive explanation of Emma's rock collection. "She showed you the rocks?" Ethan said. "Those are usually off-limits to visitors." "I'm not a visitor," Emma said. "Claire's my friend." "Right, sorry, my mistake." After dinner, Emma wanted to watch a movie. They ended up in the media room again, Emma between them on the couch. She picked something with princesses. Halfway through, she started drooping, her head landing on Claire's shoulder. "She's going to fall asleep," Ethan said quietly. "That's okay." You don't have to stay if you need to go. I don't need to be anywhere. On screen, the princess was singing about true love. Emma's breathing had gone slow and even. Ethan was watching his daughter, his expression unguarded in a way Claire hadn't seen before. She really loves you, he said. She's not just latching on to someone new. She talks about you constantly. Claire said this. Claire did that. I think she's told her entire class about you. That's terrifying, Claire said. What if I disappoint her? Then you'd be human. Ethan shifted to look at Claire directly. Can I tell you something? Okay. I was against this at first. I thought it was reckless and irresponsible, and probably dangerous. Letting some random person into my daughter's life. He paused. But Emma's been happier these last 2 weeks than she's been in 3 years. She smiles more, talks more. She asked me the other day if you could come to her school play next month. Not maybe, or if you have time, just asked, like it was a given you'd be there. When's the play? That's what you took from that? I want to know when the play is, Claire said, so I can ask for the time off. Ethan stared at her. You'd do that? Why wouldn't I? Because you barely know us. Because this is insane. Because... He stopped. I don't know. Most people would have run by now. I'm not most people, Claire said. And anyway, Emma made me a bracelet. That's a binding contract. Ethan almost smiled. Is that how it works? That's exactly how it works. Emma stirred, mumbling something about horses before settling again. Claire carefully adjusted her position so the kid would be more comfortable. The play's on November 15th, Ethan said. A Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock. I'll be there. They sat in silence while the movie played. Eventually, Ethan carried Emma up to bed. Claire stayed on the couch, suddenly unsure if she should leave or wait or what. When Ethan came back down, he had 2 beers, handed one to Claire without asking if she wanted it. I don't usually drink on weeknights, Claire said, taking it anyway. I don't usually have guests on weeknights. Ethan sat down, closer this time. Not quite next to her, but not at the other end of the couch either. Actually, I don't usually have guests at all. What about business dinners, fundraisers, all that rich people stuff? I go to those. I don't host them. This house has been full of caterers and event staff and board members. But friends? People I actually want around? He shook his head. You might be the first person to sit on this couch who isn't being paid to be here. I'm probably getting paid in pizza and movies, Claire said, just indirectly. You know what I mean. She did. Can I ask you something? Claire said. Seems only fair. Why did you block off your whole calendar for last Saturday? You could have just met us for lunch or an hour at the park. Why the whole day? Ethan looked at his beer, picked at the label. Because I realized I couldn't remember the last time I spent an entire day with my daughter. Not just present, but actually there. Paying attention. Listening. He paused. And I thought if I was going to fail at it, I'd rather fail with someone there to pick up the slack. You didn't fail. I checked my phone 6 times and ignored every call. Emma noticed. Did she? Kids notice everything, Claire said. Trust me. I was one once. Ethan smiled a little. Hard to picture you as a kid. Why? I don't know. You seem like you've been tired and responsible forever. Pretty much, Claire admitted. My mom got sick when I was 16. Died when I was 17. I had to grow up fast. I'm sorry. It's okay. It was a long time ago. She sipped her beer. What about you? Your parents still around? Technically, we don't talk much. They wanted me to go into finance like my father. I wanted to build software. We agreed to disagree, and that turned into just not speaking. He shrugged. They send Emma birthday cards with checks inside. That's about it. That's awful. That's family, Ethan said. Or was. My wife's parents tried to stay involved after she died, but I think I was too much of a reminder. We drifted apart. They drank their beers. The movie had ended at some point, replaced by a menu screen that looped the same 30 seconds of music over and over. This is weird, right? Claire said eventually. This whole situation. It's objectively weird. Completely weird, Ethan agreed. But it doesn't feel weird. No, he said quietly. It doesn't. Claire looked at him, really looked, saw the exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders that probably never went away, the way he held himself like someone who'd forgotten how to relax. "You should go home," Ethan said, but he didn't sound like he meant it. "It's late." "It's 8:30. "Is it really?" He checked his watch, seemed surprised. "Huh. You want me to leave?" "No," Ethan said, "but I don't want you to feel like you have to stay." "I don't feel like I have to do anything," Claire said. "I'm here because I want to be." Something shifted in Ethan's expression. "Okay," he said, "then stay." So she did. They talked for another hour, about nothing important. Claire told him about her terrible jobs and her worse apartment. Ethan told her about his company, explaining in simple terms what they actually did. They argued about movies, agreed about pizza toppings, disagreed about whether winter or summer was worse in Chicago. It was the most normal conversation Claire had had in years. When she finally left, close to 10, Ethan walked her to the door. "Same time next Thursday?" he asked. "Yeah," Claire said, "same time." She was halfway down the driveway when he called after her. "Claire." She turned. "Thank you," he said, "for all of this. I know I keep saying that, but I mean it." "You don't have to keep thanking me," Claire said. "I like being here." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. She thought about it, standing in the cold driveway of a house worth millions, looking at a man who probably had everything money could buy and still seemed lonely as hell. "Because you and Emma make me feel less invisible," she said finally. "Like I matter, even if it's just for a few hours a week." Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, looked like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "Good night, Ethan," Claire said. "Good night." She walked to the bus stop, the friendship bracelet Emma had made still tied around her wrist. When she got to her apartment, the silence felt different. Less comfortable, more pronounced. She'd spent one Thursday afternoon and one Saturday with the Callaways, and somehow her whole life had started to feel too small. The weeks started to blur together in the best possible way. Every Saturday, Claire spent the day with Emma and Ethan. Every Thursday, she came over after Emma got home from school. Sometimes they baked cookies. Sometimes they did art projects. Sometimes they just sat around and talked. Ethan started coming home earlier on Thursdays, then earlier on other days too. He'd join them for dinner, help Emma with her homework, actually put his phone down for hours at a time. Claire noticed things changing. The house felt less like a museum and more like a place people actually lived. Emma left her toys scattered around. Ethan started cooking occasionally instead of always ordering out. There were inside jokes and routines and a rhythm to everything that felt suspiciously like family. It terrified Claire, because this wasn't her family. This was borrowed time with borrowed people in a borrowed life that would eventually end when Emma got older, or Ethan got uncomfortable, or Claire inevitably did something to ruin it. But in the meantime, she let herself pretend. November 15th arrived. Emma's school play was a production of some fairy tale Claire didn't recognize, with 5-year-olds in construction paper costumes and dialogue they'd half memorized. Emma played a talking tree. She had 3 lines and delivered all of them too loudly, projecting to the back row like Ethan had taught her. Claire sat between Ethan and a woman who turned out to be Lucy's mom. When Emma spotted Claire in the audience, her whole face lit up. She waved, nearly forgetting her next line. Afterward, in the crush of parents and kids and teachers, Emma ran straight to Claire. "Did you see me? Did you see?" "You were perfect," Claire said, and meant it. "I wasn't perfect. I messed up the second line, but Ms. Rodriguez says that's okay because live theater is about adapting." Ms. Rodriguez is very wise. Ethan appeared, having been waylaid by other parents. "Ready to go, superstar." "Can Claire come to dinner with us, please?" Ethan looked at Claire. "If you're free." "I'm free." They went to a diner, the same one from weeks ago. Emma was still in her tree costume, refusing to take it off. She talked non-stop about the play, about who forgot their lines, about how the piano player messed up in the second act, but nobody noticed except the teachers. Claire caught Ethan watching her again, that same unreadable expression. "What?" she said quietly, while Emma was distracted by the menu. "Nothing. Just, you're good with her." "She's easy to be good with." "Not everyone thinks so. The nanny quit last month. Did I tell you that?" Claire blinked. "No? Why?" Said Emma was too talkative, too energetic, too much. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm interviewing replacements, but in the meantime, I can do more days, Claire said immediately. Claire, you have jobs. I can rearrange my schedule. The coffee shop's been cutting my hours anyway. I can make it work. I'd pay you, Ethan said. Obviously. Proper nanny rates, plus… No. Claire, I'm not doing this for money, she said firmly. I'm doing this because I care about Emma. If you pay me, it changes everything. It makes this a job instead of… She stopped. Instead of what? Instead of family, Claire thought, but didn't say. Instead of the only place I feel like I belong. Instead of something I actually want to do, she said. Ethan looked like he wanted to argue, but Emma interrupted, asking Claire what she should order, and the moment passed. That night, after they dropped Claire off at her building, after Emma had hugged her goodbye and made her promise to come over on Sunday too, Claire sat in her apartment and tried to figure out what the hell she was doing. She was falling in love with a kid who wasn't hers, maybe with a man who would never see her as anything but the help, no matter how much he insisted otherwise. She was building a life inside someone else's life, and when it eventually collapsed, it was going to destroy her. But when her phone buzzed with a text from Emma, a photo of her still in her tree costume captioned "Best Night Ever," Claire couldn't bring herself to care about the inevitable ending. Some things were worth the pain that came after. She was starting to think this might be one of them. By December, Claire had quit her job at the grocery store. It wasn't a dramatic decision. The manager had been cutting her hours anyway, and when Ethan offered to cover what she'd been making, not as payment, just to help out, she'd been too tired to argue. The coffee shop still wanted her mornings, which was fine. It meant she could spend afternoons at the Calloway house, and if that made her feel like she was living in some kind of borrowed dream, well, at least it was a good dream. Emma's school had a mother and daughter tea party scheduled for mid-December. Claire found out about it accidentally, overhearing Emma on the phone with her friend Lucy. I'm not going, Emma was saying. It's for moms and I don't have one. Claire's heart cracked clean down the middle. She was in the kitchen pretending to organize the pantry while Emma talked in the next room. Ethan was upstairs in his office, on a video call that had already lasted 2 hours. Well, your mom can come, but I can't bring anyone, so what's the point? Emma said. There was a pause. No, my daddy can't come. It says mother and daughter, not fathers. Another pause, longer this time. I guess I could ask Claire, but she's not really my mom. She's just… I don't know what she is. Claire set down the can of soup she'd been holding, stood there in the middle of the pristine kitchen, trying to decide if she should say something or pretend she hadn't heard. Emma appeared in the doorway, phone still pressed to her ear. When she saw Claire, her eyes went wide. I have to go, she said into the phone. Bye, Lucy. She ended the call. They stared at each other. How much did you hear? Emma asked quietly. Enough, Claire said. You okay? Emma shrugged, which was such a grown-up gesture on a 5-year-old that it hurt to watch. I don't want to go to the stupid tea party anyway. Emma, all the other kids will have their moms, and I'll just be the weird one without one, and everyone will feel sorry for me, and I hate that. Emma's voice was getting louder, more distressed. I hate when people look at me like that, like I'm broken or something. Claire crossed the kitchen, knelt down so they were eye level. You're not broken. Then why doesn't anything work right? Emma's eyes were wet. Why did my mom have to die? Why is my daddy always working? Why can't things just be normal? Claire pulled Emma into a hug before she could think better of it. The kid collapsed against her, not quite crying, but close. I don't know, sweetheart, Claire said quietly. I really don't. Sometimes things are unfair and it sucks, and there's no good reason for it. That's a terrible answer. I know, but it's the truth. They stayed like that for a while, Emma's small body shaking slightly, Claire's knees starting to ache from kneeling on the hard floor. Eventually, Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. Do you think… She stopped, started again. Would you come with me to the tea party? I know you're not my real mom, but maybe they wouldn't care. Maybe it would be okay. Claire's throat went tight. What does your dad say? I haven't asked him yet. I wanted to ask you first. When is it? Next Friday, at 1 o'clock. At school. Emma was watching Claire's face carefully, trying to read her reaction. You probably have work, though. Never mind. It's stupid. It's not stupid, Claire said. And I don't have work Friday afternoons anymore, remember? I could… If your dad's okay with it, I'd be happy to come. Emma's whole face transformed. Really? Really? Can we ask him now, please? Ethan was still on his call when they knocked. He held up one finger, 1 minute, then must have seen something in their expressions because he wrapped up the meeting faster than Claire had ever seen him end anything. What's wrong? He said the second the call ended. Nothing's wrong, Emma said. I have a question. Okay. There's a mother and daughter tea party at school next Friday, and I want Claire to come with me. The words came out in a rush. I know she's not my mom, but all the other kids get to go, and I don't want to be the only one who doesn't have anyone, and Claire said she'd come if you say it's okay, so can she please? Ethan looked at Claire over Emma's head. She tried to communicate everything in one glance. I didn't put her up to this. I'll understand if you say no. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. You want Claire to go, Ethan said slowly. Yes. Not me. It's for moms, Daddy, not Dad's. Right. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. And you'd be okay with that? With Claire going instead of what? Instead of my mom who's dead? Emma said it matter-of-factly, but something flickered across her face. Yeah, I'd be okay with it. The silence stretched out. Claire could see Ethan thinking, weighing, calculating the social implications of sending his daughter to a school event with someone who wasn't family. If Claire's willing, he said finally, then yes, you can go. Emma shrieked and threw her arms around him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But Em, Ethan said, pulling back to look at her seriously. I need you to understand something. Claire's not replacing your mom. Nobody could do that. This is just... Claire's important to you, and that's okay, but your mom was your mom. You understand? I know that, Emma said, sounding slightly annoyed. I'm not a baby, Daddy. I remember Mom. But she's not here, and Claire is, and I just want to go to the stupid party like everyone else. Ethan looked at Claire again. She still didn't know what to say. Okay, he said. Then it's settled. The week leading up to the tea party, Claire was a mess. She changed her outfit 6 times the morning of, finally settling on a dark green dress she'd bought years ago and never worn. Too nice for her normal life, but maybe appropriate for a private school event in Lincoln Park. She met Emma at the school entrance at 12:45. The kid was wearing a velvet dress and Mary Jane's, her hair done in careful braids that Claire suspected Ethan had YouTubed how to do. You look beautiful, Claire said. So do you, Emma said, taking her hand. Come on, we have to sign in. The tea party was in the school's multi-purpose room, which had been decorated with flowers and actual china teacups on actual tablecloths. Other mother-daughter pairs were already there, the mothers all looking polished and put together in ways that made Claire feel like a fraud. Emma led her to a table, chattering nervously about which of her friends would be there and what kind of sandwiches they were serving. Claire tried to smile and nod in the right places while internally panicking. Emma! A blonde woman approached, trailing a girl who must be Lucy. I'm so glad you decided to come after all. Hi, Mrs. Patterson, Emma said. This is Claire. She's... Emma hesitated for just a second. She's with me. Mrs. Patterson's smile didn't waver, but her eyes did a quick assessment of Claire. Taking in the department store dress, the shoes that weren't quite right, the fact that Claire obviously didn't belong in this world of country club memberships and summer houses. How lovely, Mrs. Patterson said. Are you Emma's aunt? No, Claire started. She's my Claire, Emma interrupted, squeezing Claire's hand. That's all. Mrs. Patterson looked confused, but let it go. Lucy dragged Emma off to see something across the room, leaving Claire standing alone with the other woman. So how do you know the Callaways? Mrs. Patterson asked, in a tone that suggested she was fishing for information. I'm a friend of the family, Claire said, which was technically true. Oh, how nice. Ethan doesn't usually... Well, he keeps to himself, doesn't he? Since his wife passed? Such a tragedy. Claire made a non-committal sound. And Emma's such a sweet girl, but you can tell she misses having a mother figure. It's hard being raised by just a father, especially one who works so much. Mrs. Patterson leaned in conspiratorially. Between you and me, I think Ethan needs to consider remarrying, for Emma's sake. Claire's jaw tightened. I think Ethan's doing fine. Oh, I'm sure he is. I just meant, well, a girl needs her mother, doesn't she? Before Claire could respond, before she could say something she'd regret, Emma was back, pulling Claire toward their table. The tea party started officially, with the teacher welcoming everyone and explaining the activities planned. They made paper crowns, decorated cookies, drank actual tea from actual china cups, which made Emma giggle every time she took a sip because it felt so fancy. Emma introduced Claire to at least a dozen people, each time with increasing confidence. "This is Claire, she's my person," until it stopped feeling strange and started feeling almost true. During the mother-daughter dance portion, yes, there was dancing, Emma stood on Claire's feet while Claire swayed them both back and forth. The kid was grinning so hard her face must have hurt. "This is the best day ever," Emma whispered. Claire's eyes stung. "Yeah? Yeah, thank you for coming. Thanks for asking me." They danced past Mrs. Patterson and Lucy, past other perfectly matched pairs of mothers and daughters who belonged together in ways Claire and Emma didn't. But Emma didn't seem to care about that. She just held on to Claire's hands and spun in circles, laughing. Afterward, when Claire dropped Emma back at home, Ethan was waiting. "How was it?" he asked immediately. "It was perfect," Emma said. Claire was perfect. Everyone loved her. Well, except maybe Mrs. Patterson, but she's kind of mean anyway. "Emma," Ethan said. "What?" "It's true. She told Lucy she's getting fat and needs to stop eating so many cookies." Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. "We're not repeating that to anyone, understood?" "Understood." Emma hugged Claire one more time. "Can you stay for dinner?" "I should probably please, we're having spaghetti. I'm helping make it." Claire looked at Ethan. He nodded. "Okay," Claire said. "Spaghetti sounds good." Emma ran off to change out of her dress, leaving Claire and Ethan alone in the foyer. "Thank you," Ethan said. "For today? I know that probably wasn't easy." "It was fine." "Claire," she sighed. "Okay, it was a little weird, all those mothers looking at me like I didn't belong, but Emma was happy, so it was worth it." She was more than happy. She texted me 17 times during the party. 17. All variations of Claire is here, and it's amazing. Ethan smiled slightly. "I think you made her year." "She made mine too," Claire said quietly. Something shifted in Ethan's expression. He opened his mouth, closed it, seemed to struggle with what to say next. "What?" Claire asked. "Nothing. He stopped, started again. "Emma's not the only one who's happy you're here." Claire's heart did something complicated in her chest. "Yeah?" "Yeah." They stood there looking at each other while something unspoken hung between them. Claire became aware that they were standing very close, that Ethan's eyes were darker than she'd thought, almost black in the dim foyer light, that if either of them moved even slightly forward— "I'm ready to help with dinner," Emma's voice came from upstairs, shattering the moment. Ethan stepped back, cleared his throat. "Right, spaghetti. Yeah." Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Emma narrated every moment of the tea party in excruciating detail while simultaneously trying to help cook, which mostly meant getting in the way and stealing bits of cheese. Ethan moved around the kitchen with surprising competence, clearly having learned to cook by necessity rather than desire. Claire chopped vegetables and tried not to think about the way Ethan's shoulder had brushed hers when he reached for the olive oil, or the way he'd smiled when Emma had insisted they all wear aprons, even though his was covered in cartoon dinosaurs and looked ridiculous. This was dangerous. She was falling into something she couldn't climb back out of. But the spaghetti was good, and the company was better, and when Emma asked if they could eat in the dining room like a real family, neither adult had the heart to say no. After dinner, after Emma had fallen asleep during yet another movie, Ethan walked Claire to the door. "She's getting attached," he said quietly. "To you, more than attached." "I know. It scares me," Ethan admitted. "What happens if this ends? If you decide this is too much, or you meet someone, or you just move on with your life?" "What happens if you decide I'm too much?" Claire countered. "What happens when Emma gets older and doesn't need me anymore? What happens when you realize you've let a stranger way too far into your life?" "You're not a stranger." "I was 3 months ago." "That's not—" Ethan stopped, frustrated. "You're deliberately missing the point." "What is the point?" "The point is—" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Claire now recognized as what he did when he was trying to find the right words. The point is that Emma loves you, and I can't let her get hurt. Not again. I'm not going to hurt her. You can't promise that, Ethan said. Nobody can promise that. He was right, and they both knew it. I'm going to be here as long as Emma wants me here, Claire said finally. That's the best I can offer. I can't predict the future. I can't promise nothing will change. But I can promise I care about that kid more than I've cared about anyone in years, and I'm not going to abandon her unless you make me. Ethan searched her face for something. Claire didn't know if he found it. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. Claire left, the friendship bracelet still on her wrist, her dress smelling like pasta sauce and Emma's lavender shampoo. She rode the bus home through Chicago's early winter night, watching the city slide past, thinking about mothers and daughters and the families people built when the traditional kind fell apart. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Emma wants you here for Christmas. Fair warning. Claire smiled despite herself. That's more than a month away. She's very organized, already planning the menu. Of course she is. A pause, then, would you come? If we asked? Claire looked out at the frozen streets, the gray slush piled at every corner, the bare trees reaching toward a sky that promised snow. Thought about spending Christmas alone in her apartment like she had every year since her mother died. Thought about spending it with Emma and Ethan instead, pretending for one day that she belonged to something bigger than herself. Yes, she typed. I'd come. The next few weeks blurred together. Claire found herself at the Calloway house more than her own apartment. She'd bring overnight bags sometimes, sleeping in one of the guest rooms when it got too late to leave. Ethan stopped asking if she needed to go home. Emma stopped acting surprised when Claire was just there in the morning. It felt inevitable, like they'd all been moving toward this arrangement from the moment Emma had asked her lonely question in the park. Claire noticed other things changing too. The way Ethan looked at her sometimes, when he thought she wasn't paying attention. The way he'd find excuses to be in the same room she was in. The way his hand would brush hers when they both reached for something. And how he'd pause for just a second too long before pulling away. She noticed her own reactions too. The flutter in her stomach when he smiled. The way she started dressing a little nicer on days she knew she'd see him. The fact that she thought about him way too often for someone who was supposed to be here for Emma. Not him. It came to a head on a Wednesday night in mid-December. Emma had already gone to bed. Claire should have left an hour ago, but had stayed to help Ethan prep for a presentation he was giving the next day. They were in his home office, papers spread across the desk, laptops open, the city glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Read this slide, Ethan said, turning his laptop toward her. Does it make sense? Claire leaned in, scanning the text. It's too technical. Your board won't care about the back-end infrastructure. They care about revenue impact. Right, good point. Ethan started editing. Like this? Better. But you're still bearing the lead. Put the numbers first. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Claire had learned Ethan's work habits over the past months, the way he got focused on details and lost sight of the big picture, the way he second-guessed himself when he should trust his instincts. There, Ethan said finally, sitting back. I think that's it. Let me see the whole thing one more time. He walked her through the full presentation. Claire asked questions, pushed back on weak points, forced him to sharpen his arguments. By the time they finished, it was nearly 11. You're good at this, Ethan said. The strategic thinking. Have you ever considered... He stopped. Considered what? Going back to school? Getting a degree in business or marketing or something? You'd be good at it. Claire laughed, but it came out bitter. With what money? What time? I'm 30 years old, Ethan. I barely finished community college. That ship has sailed. It doesn't have to... Yes, it does, Claire said firmly. This is my life. Working coffee shops and taking care of other people's kids. That's what I've got. That's not all you've got, isn't it? Claire stood up, suddenly needing distance. Let's not pretend I'm something I'm not. You're a billionaire who runs a company and changes people's lives. I'm barely scraping by. We're not in the same universe. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Claire turned to face him. What are we doing here, Ethan? Really? He stood too, moving around the desk toward her. I don't know, but it's not nothing. It has to be nothing, Claire said, even as her heart pounded. I'm here for Emma. That's the deal. That's all this can be. Is it? Ethan was close now, close enough that Claire could see the pulse in his throat, because it stopped being just about Emma for me weeks ago. Claire's breath caught. Don't. Don't what? Don't say things you don't mean. Don't. She stopped, tried to find words that wouldn't shatter everything. I can't do this. I can't be another thing you try and then decide doesn't fit in your perfect life. My life's not perfect, Ethan said quietly. It's a disaster held together by money and stubbornness. But you, when you're here, it feels less like a disaster. It feels like maybe I'm doing something right. Ethan, I'm in love with you, he said. The words hung in the air between them, impossible to take back. Claire stared at him. No, you're not. Yes, I am. You barely know me. I know you're kind. I know you love my daughter like she's your own. I know you make me laugh and call me out when I'm being an ass, and you don't care about my money because you've never asked me for a single thing. Ethan took a breath. I know that when I come home and you're here, the house doesn't feel empty anymore. I know I haven't felt this way since my wife died, and it terrifies me, but it's true. Claire's eyes were stinging. This is a bad idea. Probably. We're from completely different worlds. So? So it won't work. It can't work. Why not? Ethan asked, and he sounded so genuinely confused that Claire almost laughed. Because you're you and I'm me, and eventually you'll wake up and realize you can do so much better. And then where does that leave Emma? Where does that leave me? What if I don't wake up? Ethan said. What if this is real? Claire closed her eyes. She could feel him right there, close enough to touch. Could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on her chest. I love you too, she whispered. When she opened her eyes, Ethan was staring at her like she'd just solved an impossible equation. Say that again. I love you too, Claire said, louder this time. I've been trying not to. I've been telling myself it's just Emma, just this situation, just temporary, but it's not. I'm in love with you, and it's terrifying because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be the person you need. You're already the person I need, Ethan said, and then he kissed her. It was careful at first, questioning. Claire made a sound that might have been surprise or relief or both, and then she was kissing him back, hands fisting in his shirt, his arms coming around her waist. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Claire's first coherent thought was that she'd just complicated everything beyond repair. Her second thought was that she didn't care. We should talk about this, Ethan said, his forehead resting against hers. Okay, Emma, we need to tell Emma, but carefully. Make sure she's okay with it. What if she's not? Claire asked. Then we figure it out, together. Ethan pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I meant what I said. I love you. This isn't some temporary thing for me. It's not for me either, Claire admitted, but that doesn't mean it's not terrifying. The best things usually are. They stood there in his office, holding each other while the city sprawled out below them, and Claire tried to reconcile this moment with every expectation she'd ever had for her life. She'd come to Chicago 8 years ago thinking she'd figure things out, build a career, make friends, create a life worth living. Instead, she'd ended up alone and tired and convinced that's all she'd ever be. And then a 5-year-old girl had asked if she was lonely, and everything had changed. Claire pulled back. I should go home. Think about this. Make sure we're not just... Don't, Ethan said softly. Don't run because you're scared. I'm not running. I'm being practical. Stay, Ethan said. Stay tonight. In the guest room if you want. Just don't leave like this. Claire wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some kind of boundary, some protection against the inevitable moment when this all fell apart. But she was tired of being alone, tired of protecting herself from happiness, because she was afraid of the pain that came after. Okay, she said, I'll stay. They walked upstairs together. Ethan showed her to the guest room she'd slept in a dozen times before, except this time he kissed her goodnight at the door, soft and sweet and full of promise. Claire lay in bed afterwards, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what had just happened. She told Ethan Calloway she loved him. He'd said it back. And tomorrow they'd have to figure out what that meant for Emma, for them, for the strange little family they'd built out of loneliness and chance. But tonight, Claire let herself feel something she'd given up on years ago. Hope. Claire woke up to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Emma singing off-key in the kitchen. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back, the kiss, the confession, the way Ethan had looked at her like she was something precious instead of something temporary. She checked her phone. 7:30. She'd slept later than usual, probably because she'd spent half the night staring at the ceiling, replaying every word they'd said. When she made it downstairs, Emma was sitting at the kitchen island in her pajamas, swinging her legs while Ethan flipped pancakes at the stove. He was still in the clothes from last night, looking rumpled and tired and somehow more human than she'd ever seen him. "Claire?" Emma spotted her first. "You stayed over. Are you staying over now? Like, all the time?" Ethan nearly dropped the spatula. It got late," Claire said, trying to sound casual. "Your dad said I could use the guest room." "Oh." Emma looked disappointed. "I thought maybe you were moving in." "Eat your breakfast," Ethan said, sliding a plate of pancakes in front of her. "But I want Claire to move in. Then she'd be here all the time and we could have breakfast together every day and—" "Emma, breakfast. Now." Emma pouted but obeyed, drowning her pancakes in syrup. Ethan handed Claire a cup of coffee, their fingers brushing. The contact sent electricity up her arm. "Sleep okay?" he asked quietly. "Not really. You?" "Not at all." They looked at each other over Emma's head, a whole conversation happening in silence. Emma, oblivious, chattered about something that had happened at school yesterday, mouthful of pancake. After breakfast, after Emma had gone upstairs to get dressed for school, Ethan cornered Claire in the hallway. "We need to talk to her," he said. "Soon, before she figures it out on her own." "What do we even say?" Claire asked. "We kissed once. We haven't figured out what this is yet." "I know what it is," Ethan said. "Do you?" Claire looked at him, this man who'd somehow become the center of her entire world in a matter of months. "Yeah," she admitted, "I do." Then we tell her the truth, that we care about each other, that we want to see if this can work, that nothing changes how much we both love her. What if she hates it? What if she feels like we're replacing her mom or— "Claire," Ethan took her hands. "Emma asked you to be her mother for a day, remember? I don't think she's going to hate the idea of you sticking around permanently." "That was different. That was pretend." "Was it?" Ethan asked. "Because from where I'm standing, you stopped pretending months ago." He was right. They both knew it. That night, after dinner, after the dishes were done and Emma had finished her homework, Ethan suggested they all sit down together. "Am I in trouble?" Emma asked immediately, eyes wide. "No, sweetheart. Nobody's in trouble." Ethan sat on the couch, patted the space next to him. "We just want to talk to you about something. Come sit." Emma climbed up between them, looking back and forth suspiciously. "This feels like a trouble talk." "It's not. I promise," Claire said. "It's a good talk. Or we hope it's good. We're not really sure yet." "You're being weird," Emma announced. Ethan laughed despite himself. "Okay, here's the thing, Em. You know how Claire's been spending a lot of time here? And how much we all enjoy that?" "Yeah. Well, Claire and I have been talking, and we realized that we—" He glanced at Claire, clearly struggling. "We really like each other, more than just friends." Emma stared at him blankly. "What does that mean?" "It means—" Claire jumped in. "It means your dad and I care about each other the way grown-ups sometimes do. And we wanted to make sure you're okay with that." "Are you boyfriend and girlfriend now?" Emma asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "If that's okay with you." Emma looked at Claire. "Do you love my daddy?" Claire's breath caught. "Yes, I do." "And Daddy, do you love Claire?" "Very much," Ethan said quietly. Emma was quiet for a long moment, her face scrunched up in concentration. Claire's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Okay," Emma said finally. "Okay?" Ethan repeated. "That's it? Just okay? What else am I supposed to say?" Emma looked genuinely confused. "I like Claire. You like Claire. Claire likes us. That's good, right?" "Right," Claire said, relief flooding through her. "That's very good." "Can I ask a question, though?" Emma said. "Of course." "Does this mean Claire's my mom now?" The question landed like a bomb in the middle of the room. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, looked helplessly at Claire. Claire started carefully. That's complicated, sweetheart. I'm not trying to replace your mom. Nobody could do that. Your mom will always be your mom. I know that, Emma said, sounding almost impatient, but she's not here, and you are. So can you be like my now mom? And she can be my before mom? Claire felt tears prick her eyes. If you want me to be, I do want you to be. Emma threw her arms around Claire's neck. I've wanted that since the park. I just didn't think it would actually happen. Ethan was looking at both of them with an expression Claire couldn't quite read. Something between joy and grief, hope and fear. Come here, he said, pulling them both into a hug. Both of you. They sat like that for a while, tangled together on the couch, and Claire thought maybe this was what family felt like. Not perfect, not without complications, but real. The weeks leading up to Christmas were strange and wonderful and occasionally terrifying. Claire officially moved in on a Thursday in mid-December, bringing her few possessions in garbage bags because she didn't own proper suitcases. Emma helped her unpack, claiming it was very important that Claire's clothes went in the closet next to Ethan's. That's how it works when people love each other, Emma explained seriously. They share closets. Is that so? Claire asked, trying not to laugh. That's what Lucy's mom says. And she's been married 3 times, so she knows. Ethan, passing by the bedroom, stopped. Please tell me Emma's not getting relationship advice from Lucy's mother. Too late, Claire said. Apparently, we need to share closets. Well, you heard the expert. Ethan gestured to the walk-in closet that was bigger than Claire's old apartment. Make yourself at home. It felt surreal, hanging her bargain store clothes next to Ethan's designer suits, like playing dress-up in someone else's life. But Emma was so excited, running back and forth bringing Claire's things, that Claire didn't have the heart to question it. That night, after Emma was asleep, Claire and Ethan lay in bed together, his bed, which was now their bed apparently, and tried to process how fast everything was moving. This is insane, Claire said to the ceiling. 2 weeks ago I was sleeping on a futon in Pilsen. Now I live in a mansion. You can still have the guest room if you want, Ethan offered. I don't want you to feel pressured. I don't feel pressured. I feel, she tried to find the right word, unmoored, like I'm going to wake up and this will all have been a dream. Ethan rolled onto his side to look at her. It's not a dream. How do you know? Because my dreams are never this good. Claire turned to face him. What if I'm terrible at this? Being a partner, a parent figure, living in your world? What if I screw it all up? Then we'll fix it together, Ethan said simply. Claire, I'm not expecting you to be perfect. I'm barely functional most days. We'll figure it out as we go. That's a terrible plan. It's the only plan I've got. They lay there in the dark, hands linked between them, and Claire tried to believe this could actually work. Christmas arrived with Emma's barely contained excitement reaching nuclear levels. She woke them up at 6 a.m, bouncing on the bed and shrieking about presents. Emma, it's 6 a.m., Ethan groaned. It's Christmas. We can't sleep on Christmas. Claire, tell him. Claire pulled a pillow over her face. I'm with your dad on this one, kid. Traitor! But Emma was laughing, already running out of the room. I'll make hot chocolate. Special Christmas hot chocolate. Ethan sat up, hair sticking in every direction. She's going to burn the house down. Probably, Claire agreed, but she was smiling. They found Emma in the kitchen, standing on a stool, trying to reach the fancy cocoa powder Ethan kept on the top shelf. Please don't die before presents, Ethan said, lifting her down. I'm being careful. They made hot chocolate together, the 3 of them, Emma directing the operation like a tiny general. When they finally settled in the living room, where Emma had insisted they put up a tree that was at least 12 feet tall, the kid practically vibrated with anticipation. Okay, present rules, Emma announced. We go in a circle. One person opens, then the next person, then the next person. That way everyone gets equal attention. When did you become a present expert? Claire asked. Lucy's mom says, Of course she does, Ethan muttered. They opened presents slowly, savoring it. Emma got art supplies and books and a dollhouse she'd been wanting for months. Ethan got a new watch from Emma, clearly picked out by someone else, and a scarf from Claire that had taken her 3 tries to find. When it was Claire's turn, Emma handed her a small box wrapped in paper the kid had clearly decorated herself. Inside was a silver bracelet. Simple, elegant, with a small charm in the shape of a tree. It's like the tree I played in the school play, Emma explained. So you remember. Emma, this is... Claire's voice caught. This is beautiful. Daddy helped me pick it out, but I chose the tree part. I'll never take it off, Claire promised, sliding it onto her wrist next to Emma's friendship bracelet, which she still wore. Ethan handed her a second box, this one larger. You didn't have to, Claire started. Open it, he said quietly. Inside was a laptop, an expensive one, the kind Claire had never imagined owning. Ethan, I can't... You mentioned wanting to take online classes, he said. Figure out what you want to do next. This is for that. No strings attached. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. Claire stared at the laptop, then at Ethan, then back at the laptop. This is too much. It's a tool, that's all. It's a $2,000 tool. Can you just say thank you and let me do nice things for you? Ethan asked, exasperated. Thank you, Claire said, even though her instinct was to argue more. Really, thank you. Emma, bored with the adult present exchange, dove for the next gift. The morning dissolved into wrapping paper chaos, the living room becoming a disaster zone of ribbons and boxes and Emma's delighted shrieks. Later, after they'd cleaned up, after Emma had insisted on taking 1,000 photos, after they'd eaten too much breakfast and watched the beginning of a Christmas movie, Claire found herself in the kitchen with Ethan. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just processing. Regretting moving in? No. Claire turned to look at him. The opposite, actually. That's what's weird. I should be freaking out more, but I'm just happy. Is that allowed? I think that's the point, Ethan said, pulling her into a hug. Being happy. From the living room, Emma called out, Are you guys being mushy in there? Because if you are, I'm coming in. We're not being mushy, Claire called back. Yes, you are. I can hear the mushy silence. Ethan laughed against Claire's shoulder. She's not wrong. The months that followed developed a rhythm. Emma went to school, Ethan went to work, Claire spent her mornings at the coffee shop and her afternoons figuring out what the hell to do with the rest of her life. She started taking online courses, business administration, just to see if she liked it. Turned out she was good at it, really good. Ethan came home earlier now. Sometimes they'd cook dinner together, the three of them, Emma helping in ways that usually made more mess than progress. Sometimes they'd order in and eat in the media room, Emma between them, all of them arguing about what to watch. It felt normal. It felt right. But there were hard moments too. In February, Emma had a meltdown about a school project. Claire tried to help, but Emma screamed that she wanted her real mom, that Claire didn't understand, that nothing was right anymore. Claire had locked herself in the bathroom and cried while Ethan dealt with it. Later, after Emma had apologized and fallen asleep, Ethan found Claire still in the bathroom. She didn't mean it, he said through the door. Yes, she did. Okay, maybe she meant it a little. But she's 6, Claire. She's processing a lot of complicated stuff. I know that. Claire opened the door. Her eyes were red. But it still hurts. I know it does. Ethan pulled her close. For what it's worth, you're doing an amazing job. I made her cry. She made you cry first. I'd call it even. Claire laughed despite herself, watery and choked. This is harder than I thought it would be. Yeah, Ethan agreed, but you're still here. That's what matters. In March, they went to a gala for Ethan's company. Claire spent 2 weeks stressing about it, convinced she'd embarrass him in front of his business partners and board members. Ethan bought her a dress. Claire refused it. They fought about it for 3 days before Claire finally accepted, on the condition that it was a loan, not a gift. The gala was exactly as awful as Claire had imagined. People made polite small talk while clearly wondering who she was and why Ethan Calloway had brought someone so obviously out of place. One woman actually asked if Claire was the new nanny. No, Ethan said coldly. She's my partner. The woman's eyebrows had gone up. Oh, how lovely. In the car afterward, Claire was quiet. I'm sorry, Ethan said finally. I should have warned you how awful those things are. It's fine. It's not fine. You're upset. Claire stopped. I don't belong in that world, Ethan. We both know it. I don't belong in that world either, Ethan said. I just have money, so people pretend I do. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? He pulled the car over, turned to look at her. Claire, I spend 90% of those events wishing I was anywhere else. The only reason tonight was bearable was because you were there. I called that guy's merger strategy short-sighted to his face. That was the highlight of my year. Claire couldn't help but smile. He looked so offended. He's an ass. You were right. Ethan took her hand. I don't need you to fit into that world. I need you to keep calling out the asses when you see them. Pretty sure that's not how corporate politics works. Then corporate politics can go to hell. By April, Emma started calling Claire Mom, sometimes. Not all the time. She still said my mom when talking about her birth mother, making careful distinctions. But casually, in everyday conversation, it became, Mom, can you help with my homework? Or, Mom, where's my backpack? The first time it happened, Claire had frozen. Emma noticed immediately. Is that okay? I can stop if you don't like it. No, Claire said quickly. No, it's more than okay. That night she told Ethan about it. How do you feel? He asked. Terrified. What if I screw this up? What if she regrets it later? She won't. You can't know that. You're right, Ethan admitted. But I can know that you love her and that you show up every day. That's more than a lot of actual parents do. Claire thought about her own mother, who'd loved her but left too soon. Thought about her brother in Arizona who hadn't called in 6 years. Thought about all the ways families fell apart and somehow, impossibly, came back together. I want to be her mom, she said quietly. Is that crazy? No, Ethan said. It's perfect. In May, Ethan proposed. It wasn't fancy. No restaurant reservation, no elaborate plan. Just the three of them having dinner on a random Thursday, Emma chattering about something that had happened at recess when Ethan suddenly stood up and pulled a ring box from his pocket. Emma gasped. Daddy, are you? Claire, Ethan said, and his voice was shaking slightly. I had a whole speech planned, but Emma's here and I don't want to wait and… He stopped, laughed nervously. I'm terrible at this. You're doing fine, Claire said, even though her heart was in her throat. I love you. Emma loves you. You've made this house feel like a home instead of just a building. You've made me feel like maybe I'm not completely failing at life. He opened the box. Inside was a simple band, elegant and understated. Will you marry me? Emma was practically vibrating. Say yes, say yes, say yes. Claire looked at Ethan, then at Emma, then at the ring. Thought about the park bench where this had all started. The lonely woman in the worn coat and the billionaire who'd forgotten how to be happy and the little girl who'd asked one brave question. Yes, she said. Emma screamed and launched herself at both of them, nearly knocking over the table. Ethan kissed Claire while Emma cheered, and for a moment everything was chaotic and perfect. Later, after Emma had finally gone to bed still talking about the wedding, Ethan and Claire sat on the back patio. Emma wants to be in the wedding, Ethan said. As more than a flower girl, she has opinions about her role. Of course she does. She wants to walk you down the aisle. Claire's throat went tight. Really? She says since she found you first, she should be the one to bring you to me. Ethan smiled. Her logic is flawless. It really is. They sat in comfortable silence, Claire twisting the ring on her finger, still not quite believing it was real. Can I tell you something? Ethan said. Always. After my wife died, I thought that was it. The one shot at having a family, at being happy. I thought I'd just focus on work and raising Emma, and that would be enough. He paused. And then you sat down on that park bench and everything changed. I was just trying to get through another day, Claire said. So was I. Ethan took her hand. Thank you for saying yes. To all of it. Thank you for asking. The wedding was small. Just close friends, what few Ethan had, and Emma, who took her role very seriously. She wore a purple dress she'd picked out herself and carried Claire's flowers while walking her down the makeshift aisle in the Callaways' backyard. When they reached Ethan, Emma handed him Claire's hand very solemnly. Take care of her, Emma said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She's my mom now, too. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. The ceremony was short, the vows simple. Ethan promised to leave work early more often. Claire promised to stop being afraid of asking for things she needed. They both promised to love Emma and each other through whatever came next. At the reception, Emma gave a speech she'd written herself. When I was little, she read from her note cards, I used to wish for a mom. Not to replace my real mom, but because I was lonely and I wanted someone to love me. Then I met Claire in the park and she was lonely too, and now none of us are lonely anymore. I think that's what families are supposed to do, make the loneliness go away. So thank you, Claire, for being my mom, and thank you, Daddy, for letting her stay. By the time she finished, half the guests were crying, including Claire. That night, after everyone had left, after Emma had fallen asleep with frosting still on her face, Claire and Ethan stood in the kitchen cleaning up. We did it, Ethan said. Did what? Built a family out of nothing. Claire looked around the kitchen, at Emma's artwork on the fridge, at the homework scattered on the counter, at the general chaos of a house that was actually lived in. Not nothing, she corrected. We built it out of loneliness and hope, and a 5-year-old who was brave enough to ask a stranger a question. Fair point. Claire leaned against him, exhausted and happy, and still slightly terrified of how much she had to lose now. I love you, she said. I love you too. From upstairs, barely awake, Emma called out, I love you both. Now can someone please come tuck me in again? I'm still too excited to sleep. Ethan and Claire looked at each other, smiled, and went upstairs together. This was it, Claire thought. This was the life she'd stopped believing she could have. Not perfect, not without complications, but real, and hers, and worth every moment of fear it had taken to get here. 3 years of marriage taught Claire that happiness wasn't a destination you reached and then stayed at forever. It was something you had to choose over and over, even on the days when choosing it felt impossible. Like the morning in October when Emma, now 9 years old, came downstairs and announced she wanted to find her birth mother's grave. Claire had been making coffee. Ethan was reading something on his tablet. Normal Tuesday morning, nothing special. I want to visit my real mom, Emma said, sliding into her chair at the breakfast table. The one who died. The coffee pot nearly slipped from Claire's hand. Ethan set down his tablet very carefully. Where's this coming from, Em? We're doing a family tree project at school. Everyone's talking about their grandparents and stuff. And I realized I don't really know anything about my mom. My first mom. Emma looked at Claire. I'm not trying to be mean. I know you're not, Claire said, even though something in her chest hurt. You have every right to want to know about her. Do you know where she's buried? Emma asked Ethan. He was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, I know. Can we go? This weekend, maybe? Ethan looked at Claire. She could see the question in his eyes. Are you okay with this? Claire wasn't sure she was, but she nodded anyway. That Saturday, they drove to a cemetery in Evanston. Claire had never been there before. Ethan rarely talked about his first wife, and Claire had never pushed. Some doors stayed closed for a reason. But now Emma was pushing, and the door was opening whether Claire was ready or not. The grave was simple. Sarah Calloway, beloved wife and mother. The dates that marked a life cut too short. Emma stood in front of it, quiet in a way she rarely was. Ethan stayed close to his daughter, one hand on her shoulder. Claire hung back, feeling like an intruder. What was she like? Emma asked. Ethan took a breath. She was kind, funny. She loved you more than anything in the world. When you were born, she cried for like an hour straight, just from happiness. Do I look like her? A little. You have her eyes, her smile. Emma touched the headstone. I wish I remembered her better. I wish you did too, sweetheart. Do you still miss her? The question hung in the cold October air. Claire wanted to look away, to give them privacy, but she couldn't move. Every day, Ethan said quietly, but differently now. It used to hurt like I couldn't breathe. Now it's just, she was part of my life, and I'm grateful for that. But she's not my whole life anymore. Because of Claire, Emma said. Because of both of you. Emma turned to look at Claire. You can come closer, you know. You're still my mom, too. Claire's eyes stung. She walked over, stood on Emma's other side. I'm sorry if I made you feel bad, Emma said, by asking about her. You didn't make me feel bad, Claire lied. Then, because Emma deserved honesty, she corrected herself. Okay, maybe a little, but that's my problem, not yours. You should know about your birth mother. You should ask questions. That's important. Can I love you both? Emma asked. Is that allowed? Of course it is, Ethan said. Good. Emma looked back at the grave. Because I do. I love my before mom even though I don't remember her very much. And I love my now mom because she's here. She paused. Is that weird? No, Claire said, her voice thick. That's exactly right. They stayed for a while. Emma picked wildflowers growing near the cemetery fence and laid them on the grave. Ethan told stories about Sarah that Claire had never heard, how she'd been terrible at cooking, how she'd sung constantly even though she couldn't carry a tune, how she'd wanted to name Emma something ridiculous like Persephone. Daddy vetoed it, Ethan said. Thank goodness. I like Emma better anyway, Emma said. Persephone is too hard to spell. On the drive home, Emma fell asleep in the back seat. Ethan and Claire were quiet. You okay? He asked finally. I don't know, Claire admitted. Part of me feels like I'm stealing something that wasn't mine. You're not stealing anything. Sarah would have loved you, I think, for taking care of Emma, for taking care of me. He paused. For being willing to share space with a ghost. Is that what she is? A ghost? No. She's a memory. A good one. But you're real, Claire. You're here. That matters more. Claire wanted to believe him. Most days she did. But sometimes, on the hard days, she wondered if she'd ever really be enough. December brought its own challenges. Emma wanted a sibling. She announced this at dinner casually, like she was asking for more broccoli. Can we have a baby? Claire choked on her water. Ethan stopped mid-chew. What? He managed. A baby. You know, a little brother or sister. Lucy just got a baby brother, and she says it's annoying, but also kind of fun, and I think I'd be a good big sister. Claire and Ethan looked at each other across the table. That's a big decision, Em, Ethan said carefully. I know. That's why I'm asking now, so you have time to think about it. Very considerate of you, Claire said faintly. So will you think about it? We'll think about it, Ethan said. Emma beamed. Great, can I be excused? I have homework. After she left, Claire and Ethan sat in silence. Well, Ethan said finally. Yeah. Have you thought about it, kids? Claire twisted her wedding ring. Sometimes, but I always figured, I don't know, I'm 33. You've already done the baby thing. I didn't think you'd want to do it again. I didn't think I did either, Ethan admitted. But lately I've been wondering what it would be like. A baby that's ours. You mean biologically ours? I mean, yeah. Is that terrible? Emma's ours regardless, but I know what you mean, Claire said. And no, it's not terrible. It's human. They talked about it that night, and the next night, and the night after that. The logistics, the fears, the hopes. Claire's concerns about being an older mom. Ethan's worry about splitting his attention between two kids. The very real possibility that it might not even happen. In January, Claire went off birth control. They didn't tell Emma, didn't want to get her hopes up. But that night, lying in bed, Ethan said something that stuck with Claire. Even if it doesn't happen, we're already a family. We're already enough. I know, Claire said. Do you? Because sometimes I think you're still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like you don't quite believe this is real. He wasn't wrong. I'm working on it, Claire said. I love you. Emma loves you. That's not going to change. You can't promise that. Watch me. Ethan rolled over to face her. I, Ethan Calloway, promise that I will love Claire Calloway even when she's being stubborn and self-sabotaging and convinced she doesn't deserve good things. Despite herself, Claire smiled. That's not very romantic. It's realistic, which is better. February came and went. No pregnancy. March arrived with Chicago's false spring, a few warm days that tricked everyone into thinking winter was over before dumping another foot of snow. In April, Claire missed her period. She didn't tell Ethan right away. Didn't want to jinx it. Took 3 pregnancy tests over 4 days just to be sure. All positive. She told him on a Thursday night after Emma had gone to bed. Just handed him one of the tests without saying anything. Ethan stared at it. Are you? I'm pregnant. He pulled her into a hug so tight she could barely breathe. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. I didn't think, after Sarah, after everything, I didn't think I'd get to do this again. We don't have to tell Emma yet, Claire said. It's still early. Anything could happen. Nothing's going to happen, Ethan said firmly. This baby's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. Claire wished she had his confidence. The pregnancy was rough. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Exhaustion that made her sleep 12 hours and still wake up tired. Emma, who they finally told at 12 weeks, alternated between excited and worried. "What if the baby doesn't like me?" she asked one night. "The baby will love you," Claire said. "You're going to be the best big sister." "What if I'm not, though? What if I'm bad at it?" "Then you'll learn. Nobody's perfect at this stuff right away." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer. She started reading books about being a big sister, making lists of names, drawing pictures of what she thought the baby would look like. In June, they found out it was a boy. Emma was thrilled. "I'm going to teach him everything, how to ride a bike, and how to read, and how to avoid Sophie, because she's mean." Very important skills, Claire agreed. The pregnancy brought up things Claire hadn't expected. Old fears about her own mother, who she'd lost too young. Worries about being enough, doing enough, knowing enough. She cried at random times, during commercials, while folding laundry, once in the middle of the grocery store for no reason she could explain. Ethan took it in stride, brought her water and tissues, and sat with her through the hard moments. "I'm a mess," Claire said one night in July, 8 months pregnant and unable to tie her own shoes. "You're growing a human. You're allowed to be a mess." "What if I'm terrible at this? What if I don't know what I'm doing?" "Then you'll be like every other parent in the world," Ethan said, "making it up as you go." That's not reassuring. It's honest. The baby came in early September, 2 weeks before his due date. Labor was long and painful, and nothing like the movies made it seem. Emma stayed with a friend while Ethan paced the hospital room and Claire tried not to scream. 22 hours later, they had a son, James Alexander Calloway, 7 pounds, 6 ounces, perfectly healthy, screaming his head off. When they finally brought Emma to meet him, she approached cautiously, like he might break. "He's so small," she whispered. "You were smaller," Ethan said. "Can I hold him?" Claire helped Emma get settled, then carefully placed the baby in her arms. Emma stared down at her brother with an expression of pure wonder. "Hi, James," she said softly. "I'm your big sister. I'm going to take care of you, okay? And teach you stuff. And make sure nobody's mean to you." She looked up at Claire and Ethan. "He's perfect." "He really is," Claire said, and meant it. The first few months were chaos. James didn't sleep. Emma regressed a little, needing more attention, more reassurance that she was still loved and important. Ethan tried to help but had to travel for work. Claire felt like she was drowning most days. But there were good moments too. Emma singing to James when he cried. Ethan doing 3 a.m. feedings so Claire could sleep. The 4 of them piled on the couch together, exhausted, but together. One night in November, when James was 2 months old and finally sleeping in 3-hour stretches, Claire found herself alone in the nursery. The baby was asleep in his crib, the room quiet except for the white noise machine. She stood there watching him breathe, this tiny human she'd made, and felt overwhelmed by the weight of it all, the responsibility, the love, the fear that she'd screw it up somehow. "You okay?" Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Just thinking." About how different my life is now. How 3 years ago I was alone in a terrible apartment, working jobs I hated, convinced that's all I'd ever have. And now I have... She gestured at the nursery, at the sleeping baby, at everything. All of this. Ethan came to stand beside her. "Regrets?" "No, the opposite. I'm grateful and scared. Because now I have so much to lose." "We all do," Ethan said, "but we also have so much to hold on to." From down the hall, Emma called out, "Is James okay? I heard him crying earlier." "He's fine, sweetheart," Claire called back. "Go back to sleep." "Can I sleep in your room tonight?" Claire and Ethan looked at each other. They'd been trying to break Emma of this habit, but some nights it wasn't worth the fight. "Sure," Claire said. "Come on." Emma appeared minutes later, dragging her favorite stuffed bear. She climbed into bed between them, sighing contentedly. "This is my favorite," she announced. "All of us together." "Even when James wakes up crying in 2 hours?" Ethan asked. "Even then." James did wake up 2 hours later, and Emma did complain. But she also helped Claire change him, singing the lullaby they'd been teaching her. And when he finally settled down, Emma whispered, "See? I'm good at this." "You really are," Claire said. By the time James turned 1, life had found a new rhythm. Emma was 10 and starting to have opinions about everything. James was walking and getting into everything Emma told him not to. Ethan had cut his work hours down to something almost reasonable. Claire had finished her degree and was consulting part-time from home, helping small businesses with their marketing strategy. It wasn't perfect. They still fought sometimes about money, about parenting decisions, about who forgot to buy milk. Emma still had moments where she missed being an only child. James was firmly in the throw food on the floor phase. Ethan still worked too much some weeks, but it was theirs. One Saturday in December, 4 years after Claire had walked down the aisle with Emma by her side, they found themselves back at the park where it had all started. It was snowing, the same kind of heavy, wet snow that had been falling that first day. Emma was pushing James on the baby swings while Ethan and Claire sat on a bench. Not the same bench, but close enough. "You remember this place?" Ethan asked. "How could I forget? This is where your daughter asked me the weirdest question I've ever gotten." "Second weirdest, maybe. You haven't heard some of James's recent questions." Claire laughed. "Fair point. Yesterday he asked me where clouds sleep." "What'd you tell him?" "That they have beds in the sky. What else was I supposed to say?" They watched Emma teaching James how to pump his legs, even though he was way too young to understand. The kid was shrieking with delight every time the swing went higher. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if Emma hadn't asked?" Claire said. "If I'd just said no and walked away?" "All the time," Ethan admitted. "I think about how close I came to stopping her, to pulling her away and apologizing for bothering you." "Why didn't you?" "Because she looked so hopeful, and you looked so sad. And something in me just broke, I guess, or opened. I don't know." He turned to look at Claire. "I'm glad I didn't stop her." "Me too." Emma came running over, James toddling behind her on unsteady legs. "Can we go get hot chocolate, please? James has never had hot chocolate." "James is one," Ethan said. "He doesn't need hot chocolate." "Everybody needs hot chocolate. It's like a rule." "Is it now?" "Yes, a Christmas rule." "Claire, back me up." Claire pretended to think about it. "She's not wrong. Hot chocolate is pretty important." "Traitor," Ethan said, but he was smiling. They walked to the same bakery they'd gone to years ago, the one where Emma had explained the merits of different pastries with extreme seriousness. It was still there, still smelling like butter and sugar and warmth. James got whipped cream all over his face. Emma told them in detail about a boy at school who she thought was kind of okay, I guess. Ethan checked his phone once, caught Claire's look, and put it away without being asked. On the walk back to the car, James in Ethan's arms and Emma holding Claire's hand, Emma said something that made Claire's heart stop. "You know what I think?" "What's that?" Claire asked. "I think lonely people are supposed to find each other, like you and Daddy. You were both lonely, and then you found each other, and now we're a family." Claire looked at Ethan over Emma's head. He was already looking at her, that same expression from the hospital when James was born, from their wedding day, from that first moment in his office when everything had changed. "You might be right," Claire said. "I'm always right," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Ask anyone." That night, after both kids were asleep, after the dishes were done and the house was finally quiet, Claire and Ethan ended up on the back patio. It was cold, but the snow had stopped, and the sky was clear enough to see a few stars despite the city lights. 4 years, Ethan said, since I made the second-best decision of my life. Second best? First was not stopping Emma from talking to you. Second was asking you to marry me. What about having James? That was a joint decision. Doesn't count. Claire leaned against him, pulling his arms around her against the cold. I keep waiting for it to feel normal. Like this is just my life now, and I'm used to it. But it still feels kind of surreal sometimes. Good surreal or bad surreal? Good. Definitely good. I used to think I knew what I wanted, what my life would look like, and it was nothing like this. It was smaller, sadder, and I'd convinced myself that was enough. What changed? A 5-year-old asked me if I was lonely, Claire said, and I was honest for the first time in years. After that, everything else kind of followed. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I spent 3 years after Sarah died convincing myself I was fine, that Emma was enough, work was enough, that I didn't need anything else. And I believed it too. Until you. Until me what? Until you made me realize how much I'd been settling for fine instead of actually happy. They stood there in the cold, holding each other, while the city hummed around them and their kids slept safe inside. This was it, Claire thought. This was the life she'd stopped believing existed. Not the mansion or the money or any of the external stuff. Just this. Being held by someone who loved her, having children who called her mom, belonging somewhere so completely that the loneliness felt like it had happened to someone else. It had taken 33 years of wrong turns and dead ends and devastating losses to get here. But she'd made it. I love you, she said. I love you too, Ethan said, even though you side with Emma way too often. Someone has to. You're too strict. I'm not strict. I'm practical. You wouldn't let her have hot chocolate. She'd already had sugar today. Claire laughed, the sound carrying in the cold night air. Inside, through the window, she could see Emma's nightlight glowing, could hear James stirring on the baby monitor they'd brought outside. He's going to wake up in 30 seconds, Claire predicted. 20, Ethan countered. They were both wrong. It took 45 seconds before James's cry came through the monitor, followed immediately by Emma's voice on her walkie-talkie, a recent acquisition she insisted she needed for emergencies. Mom, James is crying. Should I get him or are you coming? Claire looked at Ethan. Your turn. I did the last one. That was 3 hours ago. Ancient history. You're the worst, Ethan said, but he was already heading inside. Claire followed, the cold finally getting to her. In the house, Ethan was already upstairs. She could hear Emma giving him detailed instructions on how to hold James, as if Ethan hadn't been doing this for a year already. Claire climbed the stairs to the nursery. Emma was in there in her pajamas, supervising while Ethan changed James's diaper. The baby was giggling now, grabbing at Ethan's hair. See, you have to distract him with the toy, Emma was saying. Otherwise he tries to roll away. Noted, Ethan said seriously. When he looked up and saw Claire in the doorway, he smiled. Emma noticed and smiled too. James, seeing everyone else smiling, shrieked happily and kicked his legs. This was her family, her loud, chaotic, imperfect, beautiful family. The loneliness that had defined Claire's life for so long felt like it belonged to someone else now. Someone she used to be, before a freezing day in a Chicago park changed everything. She thought about that woman sometimes, the one who'd sat on a frozen bench with lukewarm coffee, convinced that this was all life had to offer. The one who'd been too tired to hope for anything better. Claire wished she could go back and tell her, hold on, just a little bit longer. Someone's about to ask you a question that will change everything. And when they do, be brave enough to answer honestly, because the truth was, loneliness hadn't made Claire weak. It had made her ready. Ready to recognize the same ache in a little girl's question. Ready to take a chance on something that made no logical sense. Ready to build a family out of broken pieces and shared understanding and one moment of radical honesty on a winter afternoon. Claire? Emma was looking at her. You okay? Yeah, Claire said, walking into the nursery, into the warmth and noise and love. I'm perfect. And for once, she actually meant it. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the city in white. But inside the Calloway house, with James finally settling down and Emma making plans for tomorrow and Ethan reaching for Claire's hand, everything was warm. The park bench was still out there somewhere, buried under new snow. Waiting for the next lonely person to sit down and rest. Waiting for the next brave child to ask the right question at exactly the right time. But Claire wasn't on that bench anymore. She was home,